Hi, my name is Jerry Massey, and I've been doing a video series on my journey to see if I have cancer or not, liver cancer. I have a mass on my liver, as my friends know. So last Friday, I had the biopsy. Um, and one thing that annoyed me about the biopsy on the liver is I felt like nobody could really tell me what was going to happen or what it was like. And my friend Terry, who has really been so kind and so helpful through all of this and went with me, she told me what was going to happen, but other people said other stuff. And I didn't know what was true. Terry told me they'll give you fentanyl and another drug, I think it's called Versed. And she said it'll make you sleepy. But then other people said, oh no, they'll just give you a local and the needle goes in and out so quickly, you won't need to have any type of sedation. And even the surgeon who sent me for the biopsy, he didn't do the biopsy, but he sent me, he was saying, oh, no, you just go, they'll keep you 2 hours and you can drive home afterwards. So I didn't know, and I just thought, well, then I'm going to record for posterity what happens in a liver biopsy. And Terry was correct that we went to UNC Hospital, and they were like very helpful and very kind. But even so, it was supposed to be done at 1 o'clock, and I think it was after 3 before I actually got in, which is fine because it meant they were giving previous people in line ahead of me the detailed attention that they deserved and that I also wanted, which I also got. So um, I was given the two sedating drugs, and the nurse that took me down there, I was in like a stretcher bed with rails on the side, and she wheeled me down. Um, she told me her only job was to watch me and the sedatives going in, and she monitored all my like body signs, life signs. I had a blood pressure cuff on, and I think I had a oxygenation fingertip clamp on, and I don't know anything else. So she monitored that. Um, and I did, like they said, you should just go with it. Just go, just fall asleep, just go with it. But I thought, no, I really want to know. I want to be able to say this is what happened during the biopsy. So I decided I was going to pay attention. And they told me because the mass on my liver is coming up under my lung, they said I guess it's awkwardly placed for them, so they were going to use both an ultrasound and a CAT scan. And here's again, if you're not that familiar with hospital gadgetry, I talked before about the MRI, which is like a long tube that you go into, that your body goes into, and it uses magnetic waves to take an image of your body or the area of your body that they want to look at. So the MRI is a long tube. An ultrasound usually uses a probe that they pass over you back and forth. And then the CAT scan, in this case, CAT scans can vary, but in this case, it was like a round donut, looked like a big metal donut. And I actually passed back and forth through it backwards and through it forwards. And, of course, this was done automated, I think. Um, so they used both the CAT scan and the ultrasound to look at what they were doing. And, I saw her, this is a teaching hospital. So one of the attending students was a doctor. They talked to me before it began. And another one, she told me she was not a doctor, but I'm guessing she was very close to being a doctor because she just seemed very, very professional and very knowledgeable. I think there might have been, then there was somebody else who I think was more like a technician. And then the doctor, the lead doctor, the teaching doctor came in when it was actually time to get started. So she talked to them, the lead doctor talked to them about how to do this with the tumor presenting the way it was presenting. And I just remember they talked back and forth, and then the woman student over here, she went like this with her hand. And the doctor like picked up on that and said, and then I saw the doctor do that with her hand. And I thought, oh, well, that's whatever that means. I think it meant they were going to come up and under to do it. So yes, and yes, I felt it. Yeah, they did. There was a lot of passing back and forth and looking at the image and discussing. And I told them, please just do whatever you need to do, but I'm going to pray. And they said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So, and when I pray, I mean, I pray out loud and, but quietly, but I did pray. But I will say this, you know, I spent 13 years documenting clergy sex abuse of children, and I deal with the victims after they're adults, or you know, when I started, they were very young adults, and now I still do have young adults in, I guess, the group of people I'm in contact with, but many of the people I started with, because I started in 2001, are now like in their 40s. I still call them all the young people. But I've dealt with people whose lives were seriously damaged, many of them before they were 10 years old. They were, you know, sexually molested by a pastor or a deacon, and the church sided with the person who molested them. And for some of them, even their parents sided with the church. And these are kids growing up in fundamentalism. They had what ACE learning, which is self-paced learning, which is a joke. It's very poor. It's a substandard education. There are young people I have dealt with, and I think Fonda Finke Kramer, who went through Hephzibah House, she went through Hephzibah House, and then Ron Williams reached out to her parents and told her mother that she had mental problems. And so then her mother put her into a mental hospital for a year. There's nothing wrong with Fonda. She's just a normal teenage girl, but she defied Ron Williams, so he had to get back at her that way. With all of that, with everything Ron Williams did to her, Fonda got herself a college education. I don't even know how she could have done it, and got into the education system as a professional in the education system. I don't think she was a teacher. I don't remember what she did, but she had a professional job, and then sadly died from lung, inflammation of her lungs. I don't know if pneumonia. She had pneumonia and she died. So she died, never seeing Ron brought to justice for what he did. But most of the young people who I see cannot get to the level of being a medical professional. They don't have the educational background. Their minds are shattered from what was done to them. They pick up and do the best they can. And so many of them are wonderful, loving people. But it really did, like the minute I said, before the lead doctor came in, I said to them, I'm just going to pray. And I saw these young people saying, oh yeah, pray, like looking down at me. I really felt this is where my children are supposed to be. This is where the lambs are supposed to be. They should have had these opportunities. They should have had this. And I don't want to take anything away from these very educated young people who looked after me, because I know they have worked hard and they face a lot of roadblocks in their way. But it was good to see them. It was good to see young, bright faces with a future, and they were so professional and so kind. You could see they were very high-minded, that these were very, very high-minded young people. And I did really feel that for the people I've worked with, the lambs, who didn't get what they should have gotten in life. But I also, really felt it for them. So when I started praying, I prayed for these young people too, for the Lord to protect them, because trouble and abusiveness and exploitation can come to anybody at any time. And I would have to say, if you're studying to be a doctor and you're just about to become one, that's actually a great time for somebody to come along and really mess up your life. So I prayed for them. But it really touched them. And one of the girl, Hydeth was her name, she even took my hand several times. And then she asked me, who are these other young people that you're praying for? And I told her, and I can say that she, they certainly responded, realizing that I was thinking of these people who I love, who didn't get a fair shake in life. But I could see, well, maybe I've contributed to that high-mindedness, because certainly for these young people, they're going to be faced with every temptation possible to lose that high-mindedness and just be cynical. So I hope that there was an influence there to help them stay on this high-minded path. But they were very kind, and that actually encouraged me. It just really encouraged me that the young people who go to this school clearly are taught not just medicine, but also like an ethical high road that they are expected to take. And that just really encouraged me. You know, these people are going to cut me open in a few weeks and take out probably half my liver. So it's good to know that they have this ethic that is there. So then the lead doctor came in, and they had the conversation about how to do this. And then I remember very clearly, after I'd passed through the CAT scan ring a couple times, and she said, you know, all right, we're going to do the biopsy now. And I said, all right. And it hurt. I mean, so if you're asking, does it hurt? Yeah, it does, but it didn't hurt. I think I've had other things done to me that hurt more. What it really felt like was almost like if somebody gave you, if they had a big syringe, like a flu syringe, and they put it right over your liver and gave it to you. So it stung really, really badly, but it didn't, I think I groaned, but it didn't make me, you know, jump up and down or say, oh, please stop, nothing like that. And she did that 3 times. And then I remember when they said, oh, you're all finished, and I thanked them. But then in my mind, I got up and I walked back to recovery, which did not happen. They wheeled me back, but I guess it was a dream. I guess I fell asleep and dreamed that I got, but in my dream, I walk into recovery and Terry's there, and I said, I'm all finished. And I guess that just didn't happen. I mean, I'm sure that didn't happen. So I don't remember being in recovery. You have to be there for 2 hours to let the drugs wear off. And then Terry told me that when they brought me in, the 2 nurses were talking, and one of them said I had reacted badly to one of the drugs, or I'd reacted to one of the drugs. And I did have, that night I had a lot of pain at Terry's house. I was in a lot of pain, and she engineered a way with pillows to keep me sitting up in bed with my knees up and my feet also propped up, and pillows beside me so I could like lean over like this and fall asleep. And then about 4 a.m, I could lie down again and sleep. But my worst time really was after the biopsy. And Terry thinks that has something to do with the reaction I had that they talked about. And then they said in the paper they gave me, you know, to take it easy for 3 days. And I definitely was tired, but I was really exhausted for 5 days. It was Wednesday. Wednesday around noon, I finally started feeling more like myself. And by then, of course, I was at home. So yeah, so you know, I wanted it noted. You know, I sent a message to my doctor to let him know I reacted to one of the sedation drugs. I want to make sure they know this before we have a longer surgery. So all that, and they sent, you know, that I got notices that my results were in my MyChart account. Nowadays, if you see medical people, they send you your results to a special account that you sign up for, just like you would sign up for any account. And it's, you know, it's private, it's for you. And I talked with Terry about it, and we both agreed that it was better not to look, because this was, you know, do I have cancer or do I not have cancer? And it's just better not to look, because I would know if I have cancer, then I would know I have cancer, and it would be days before I could see the surgeon, and I would just go crazy wondering what we were going to do. So it's just better not to look. So today is the morning of the visit to the oncologist, and I see the oncologist, Dr. Moon. I'm scheduled to see him at 2, and then at 3, I'm scheduled to see the surgeon. And Terry takes this as good. She thinks they wouldn't have assigned me a surgeon this quickly if I had cancer. But I just think, well, then why am I seeing the oncologist? Like, to me, it's like if I'm seeing an oncologist and then seeing a surgeon, I do have cancer. But then my friend Mary said the same thing. She told me that your results are not released to you until the doctor releases them, and then you have to have them within 24 hours. And Mary had cancer, and Mary told me they never released bad news test results to her until the doctor spoke with her first. So Mary said the fact that I had results released to me makes Mary think I don't have cancer. So there's 2 votes thinking I don't. And I hope I don't, but I'm still thinking, but why am I seeing an oncologist first and then seeing the surgeon? So I wanted to record this before I go, because I want it to be clear, especially again from my young friends who are leaving, who have left fundamentalism or leaving fundamentalism. The grinning facade of fundamentalism is you're supposed to take all of this and never be shaken. And I am scared. I mean, I'm definitely afraid. I dread the thought of having liver cancer. Now about the Lord, in terms of, my interactions with the Lord, well, first, physically, let me say I suffer from an autoimmune disorder called lichen sclerosis, which involves inflammation in certain areas of the body. And that's like roaring today. That I'm super inflamed. Well, I'm inflamed, not as badly as I have been in the past, but definitely the inflammation is up. Um, but yesterday I went to Harris Teeter, and I was standing in line at the deli counter, and it was so odd. Well, actually, this man was in line ahead of me, and then he went out of line. I think it was just to move his cart out of somebody's way or something. And then I turned around, like I moved up, and then I saw him there, and I said, "Oh, you were ahead of me. You go." And I told him, "Please go ahead." And he said, "No, that's all right. I'm not doing anything. You go ahead, ma'am." And then I said, "Okay." And then he said, "Unless, you're ordering like 12 things." And then he kind of went into like this comedy routine of standing in line at the deli. He was very funny. And it was just him and me talking quietly. He was so funny that I really enjoyed, like he would, and then I was kind of making comments back, trying to sort of keep the comedy going. And he he just really had me laughing. And I was only ordering 4 ounces of beef. I try to eat a little bit every week. Supposedly it's good for your blood. So, but too much is really bad for you. So I only get 4 ounces a week. And he just was so funny. So before I left, I said, "I want to tell you something. Tomorrow I have to go see an oncologist to see if I have liver cancer. And I'm just really glad you talked to me." And he said right away, he said, "What is your name?" And I said, "Jerry." And he said, "I'm Ken. I'll pray for you." And he fist bumped me. And then I turned, and there was a woman right there. And she, in this COVID era, she seized my hand and she said, "What is your name?" And I said, "Jerry." And she said, "I want to tell you, my husband last year was diagnosed with frontal lobe dementia. He was on a cane. They told him he would not be able to walk. He would have dementia. He would not be able to work." And she told me, "He's one of the lead men right now working in the produce section over there. He's not on a cane. He and I have a great relationship. He does not have dementia." And she said, "The Lord did that. The Lord." And I said, "How?" And she just said, "The Lord." But she said, "I'll pray for you." And I really thought, wow, that's like, I look at all of that happened as timed by the providence of God. I don't know that I don't have cancer, and I am very concerned that I do. But meeting Ken, and her name is Karen, meeting Karen was timed in the providence of God. I believe that. He shows us when we ask him to help us, he sends us help. He sends his agents of help to us. And that so I do want to say that. So that's everything. I leave in a couple hours to go, and I plan to post again as soon as I can post. So I appreciate your prayers, and thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.